Thanks for joining this webinar. My name is Miguel Ángel Gaona. I work at Quistor, and today I would like to share with you some tips and tricks for BI Publisher. The agenda today will consist on four different business cases. The first one is about the use of multi-language templates. The second will be about the smart use of text attachments. Then we will continue with talking about data-driven printing options. And finally, how to define the output file name and also location where the output file can be archived. Let's start with the first business case, which is about use of multi-language templates. The typical question that comes to me from customers when they have to create some documents on different languages is, do I need multiple templates for that? Is it possible to create just one template with different languages embedded? Well, the answer to the first question is no, you don't need multiple templates because, of course, you can embed multiple languages into one template. How can we do that, right? Well, the first prerequisite, it is that we need the language preference from, for example, our customer available in the XML file. That's really crucial because that field, we will use it for determining or for driving the language selection. Then, if that field or tag it is not available on the XML, then it will require a customization on the UBE to incorporate it, right? Then we will also have to declare a variable on the RTF templates. For example, the LNG, which stands for language. And by using if conditions, we will drive the language selection. I would like also to share with you some tips. And when you have to deal with multiple language templates, my recommendation is that you start with a base language design. For example, English. And as you have completed that and the base language layout is okay, then you can proceed by adding the if conditions to achieve the additional languages. And finally, if any language it is not covered on the additional languages, we will map it to the base language. Let's see an example by using the BI Publisher desktop for Microsoft Word. See how to do that. In order to show you this example, I have this RTF prepared, which is an invoice template, and I also have some XML files which came out of the invoice print UBE. It is the R42565. So as I said before, one of the prerequisites is to have the customer language available on the XML. So let's open this XML example to see where the customer language it is. Here, under this customer language underscore ID100 tag, we have our customer language preference. So the first prerequisite is to have that field on the XML, which is the case. Otherwise, you will have to customize your UBE to have that field available. So let's back to the RTF and let's upload that XML file. And the second requisite is to have a variable which we will call LNG, which stands for language. And on that variable, we will capture the customer field that we've got on the XML. In this case is the customer language underscore ID 100. So by having that variable, we will be able to drive the language selection. And now let's take a look at the invoice number heading. Here it may seem like we have a very large code, but actually is quite repetitive. We have different blocks by language code. So let's take a look at the first one. So by using the if condition, when the variable LNG is equal to D, Dutch, and the invoice type is equal to RI, then the heading will be facture number. If the variable language is equal to D, and also the invoice type is equal to RM, then we will replace the heading with credit nota number. So that's for the Dutch language. Let's see the same, but for English. In that case, when we have an if condition, when the variable language is equal to English and the invoice type is equal to RI, then we will show invoice number on the heading. And the same goes for when the invoice type is equal to RM, then we will show credit note number. So as you can see, it's quite repetitive. So the only thing you have to do is when you have the first language defined, you can basically copy and paste and replace the language code and also the different headings on the different languages. Now let's take a look at the bottom of the code where, by using the if conditions, when the language code is not equal to Dutch, English, French, or German, we will print invoice number if the invoice type is equal to RI. And the same for the credit notes. If the language code is not equal to Dutch, English, French, or German, and the invoice type is equal to RM, then we will show, or we will print credit note number on this field heading. We have done the same on this other field, the invoice to heading. So by using the if conditions, when the variable language is equal to Dutch, then we will replace the heading with facture board. If the variable language is equal to English, then we will print invoice to. The same goes for French and German. And if we have another language different than Dutch, English, French, or German, we will substitute the heading with this invoice to text. So as you see, it is quite repetitive. So once you have the first field defined, it is about copy and paste into the other field. Now let me show you a preview on PDF to see if the language selection is working correctly. So as you can see, in my XML file, I had my customer language code was Dutch. And as you can see, the different headings are in Dutch. Now let's back to the RTF, and instead of using the XML file with the language code D, let's load the same example but using the language code E for English. So if we run the preview for the PDF, then you will see that the invoice layout, it is exactly the same. The only difference is that the headings are now in English because my customer has the language code equal to English. And the same goes if we, for example, use French. On my PDF, all the headings on the invoice are now in French because of the language code on the XML. It is equal to French. And finally, let's take a look what happens if we use a different language. For example, Italian. If you remember, when we define the different headings for the invoice number, for example, we had different headings in Dutch, in English, in French, and also in German, but nothing specific for Italian. But we had a mapping saying that if the language code it is not equal to Dutch, English, French, or German, then we will use the English heading. So let's load the Italian example. And let's see the preview in XML, sorry, in PDF, to see if the language selection it is working correctly. And it is. As you can see, the different headings are in this example in English, even if the customer language it is Italian, because we specified that any other language than Dutch, English, French, or German will use the English headings. I hope that example is being useful for you. And now let's move forward to the second business case, which is the use of text attachments. As you know, text attachments are extensively used in JDE to record both internal or external notes. And sometimes you might need to print external notes on some specific documents. So a question that used to come to me is, well, can we have multiple notes in just one single attachment? Well, the answer is yes. And as you can see in the picture, on this unique text attachment, we have three different notes. The first one is being used to capture the customer PO, purchase order number. The second one is for remarks. And the third one is being used to capture internal notes. So those internal notes you want to record on the sales order as an attachment, but you don't want to print on any document. It's just the internal text. But the first two, the PO number and the remarks, you might need to print it on, for example, on the pick list, right? So now the question is, as we have multiple notes on one single attachment, can we select just a part of the attachment and print it? Yes, that's something you can do with BI Publisher. How? Well, we will have to use in-string function to find the position where the hashtag starts, also where the position ends. As we know, the ending position and the start position, we can calculate the length. We will use also substring function to retrieve the part of the text that we want to retrieve. And we will have to embed the in-string function into the substring function. But before that, I would like to share also some tips with you. If you use text attachment, like I showed on the picture, I recommend the use of media object templates just to predefine the hashtag you are going to use, right? As you can see in the sample, we have predefined this template with 3 columns and 3 rows. The first column is used to define the starting hashtag. And the second column is where you can fill it up with your internal or external notes. And the third column will be used as the closing hashtag. Also, it's recommended that on the hashtag, both on the starting and on the ending, that you use the hashtag symbol or any special character. And finally, in order to create different hashtag names for the start and ending. So as you can see in the example, for example, the peak PO number, I have used hashtag peak PO number hashtag. And for closing, it is basically the same, but adding end at the end of the hashtag. Also, the use of the replace function is quite useful to remove the carrier returns, or when you press enter on the keyboard, and the use of ltrim and rtrim to remove blank spaces on the right and on the left of the text. So now let's see an example and use all those functions together. We have this RTF, which is a pick list template. And if you look at the fields which are in yellow, are meant to print the customer PO number and the remarks that, if you can remember, they were part of a unique text attachment. So let's see how can we capture just a part of the attachment and print it on different places on this document. Let me also show you how the XML, which is being generated at the picklist UV, how it looks like. If we open the file with the Notepad++, and if we find the place where the text attachment is, so as you can see, this is my text attachment, which consists on 3 different parts. The first part is the PO number. The second part is the remarks. And the third part is the internal notes that we don't want to print anywhere. Let's focus first on the PO number. And the idea by using the in-string function and the substring function is to find the starting position of the PO number and the end position in order to calculate the length. So let's back to the RTF. Let's load that XML file. Let's edit the customer PO number field. As you can see, by using the in-string function, we are going to find this hashtag pick PO number plus 13 characters or positions. The reason why we have entered 13 is because that hashtag has 13 characters length. So by using this in-string, we are able to find the start position, which means here. Then with the next in-string, which is all this together, we are going to find the pick PO number and hashtag, which is this one, minus the pick PO number minus 13. So by doing that, we are going to set the pointer, let's say, on this position and calculate the length of the text. And finally, we have embed the in-string into the substring. So the substring will set the pointer here, and as we have calculated the length of the text that we want to retrieve, that's the part of the text that the substring is going to get. So let's see the preview in PDF just to check if that field it is only printing the PO number. So as you can see here, we are only printing A-124567, which is my PO, my customer PO number. So if we back to the XML file, you can see that we are only retrieving that part of the text attachment. And now let's go to the second field, which is the remarks, and we are going to basically repeat the same operation, which is find the pick remarks hashtag and the pick remarks end hashtag to retrieve only this part of the attachment, right? But in this case, as you can see on the remarks, there are some empty or blank lines, which are not nice to print. Also, there are some blank spaces on the left and on the right. So by using the Alt-Trim and R-Trim, we are going to remove the blank spaces on the left and on the right. And by using the replace CHR10, we'll remove these empty lines on the attachment. So let's run the preview in PDF to check what is printing. And as you can see on the remarks box, we are just retrieving this remark will be printed on the pick node. If we go back to the XML file, you can see that it is exactly the text that we are retrieving, but you will notice that we are not printing any empty line, right? So by using the replace function, we got rid of those empty lines, as you can see here. And also, if we look at the bottom of the document, you can see that here we are printing also the remarks, but without removing the empty lines. So if we go back to the RTF template, if we open this field where we are printing the remarks without replacing the empty lines, you see that we are using the substring together with the in string to retrieve the pick remarks, but without using the replace, the Alt-Trim and the R-Trim functions. Okay, so this is all about the use of text attachment. And now let's move forward to the next business case, which is the use of data-driven printing. The data-driven printing is functionality which is part of the bursting and delivery capabilities in BI Publisher for JT Edwards. It is very useful when, for example, you need to print your pick list on different printers based on the branch plant, which is on the sales order. But it's not only that, because actually you can use as a driver any of the existing tags in the XML. So let me show you an example to see how that works. So I logged in JD 9.2 demo environment, and I'm going to open the application P95620, the pick list. And if I click on Form, Burst, and Delivery, I see that data-driven delivery flag. I need to activate it. And as you do that, then the data-driven printing mapping button gets active as well. So here on the mapping, I have to fill it up 2 columns. On the first column, you have to enter the tag name from the XML file that will be used as the driver. In my case, I want to use the branch plant. So let's open the XML file that is being produced by the pick list, and I'm going to copy the tag name, the business unit display ID 22. Second column, we will fill it up later. Now, before filling this column up, we have to create a mapping name. So in order to do that, let's click on Form, Add Printer Mapping. We will give it a name, for example, branch. And now, on the first column, we have to enter the branch plant code that we are going to use. In my example, I'm using the branch plant X and branch plant Y. Okay, so I will enter the branch plant code BPX, and on the second column, the printer device. If you click on the magnifying glass, you can select all the printers that you have available in your environment. In my case, I'm going to use the printer X when the branch plant BPX is used. And on the second row, I'm going to fill it up with the branch plant Y. And again, on the second column, you have to select the printer name, which is going to be used when the branch plant Y is used on the pick list. So as I select the printer Y, so now I have completed this mapping, which I gave it the name branch. If I click OK, now I can use that printer name that I created, branch, to complete the setup. And the last thing to do is on the data-driven recipient to enter again the tag name from the XML file that is used as the driver. Remember, in my case, is the business unit display ID 22. And that's all. So now the setup is complete, and let's see an example with an actual sales order that I have ready for this webinar. If I open the P4210 application, I have this sales order 4426 as O, which is being created on the branch plant BPX, so on the branch plant X. So what I'm expecting is that at the moment that I print the pick list, due to the data-driven setup that I have created, it will use the printer X. So let's open the batch version application with the R42520. I'm going to use this version. On the data selection, I already have predefined the sales order 4426. That's okay. Let's confirm the processing options. And also, as you confirm, you will see that on the submit report definition, the data-driven option as the delivery method, it is active, as we confirm. So now the UV is being submitted. Let me open that job. So as I open the report definition jobs, I can see on the view delivery option that the delivery type is set, which means data-driven printing. And also on the delivery location, you will find the printer name which is being used. So as you can see, by using the branch plant X on the sales order, at the moment of printing the pick list, due to the data-driven printer mapping that we have created, it is correctly using the printer X. Well, that's all about that business case, and now let's move forward to the last business case, which is output file name and path. This functionality allows you to customize and to define easily how the output file name is going to be assigned. It can use either static or dynamic values. And for dynamic values, you can use any of the fields that are on your XML file. For example, your output file name could be customer name underscore your pick list number, or the company number underscore the invoice number. This is part of the report definition bursting and the delivery functionality as well. And you will be able to find it on the override output file name tab under the bursting and delivery option in the report definition, P95620. The only thing you have to do is to activate the override output file name flag, enter the data item to be used, and finally define a file name. And finally, the customizing your output file path. It is useful when you need your output files to be archived, enables you to define where the output file will be archived, and it can be any folder in the one server. So let's see an example on the demo environment to see how the customizing the output file name and path works. We will open the P95620 again, and let's take the report definition that we are using in the webinar. If we click on the burst and delivery option, as we click on the tab override output file name, you can activate the override output file name option. And I'm using the data item 164A. And as we click on define file name, you will see that that data item 164A allows you to capture up to 9 dynamic values coming from the XML file. So in this case, we need to retrieve from the XML file what's the tag name for the ship to address and the pick list number. So let's open the XML file. We see that the pick list number is the pick list number display ID 54, and the ship to address, it is the address number display ID 71. So that is what I have entered on this structure. For the defining the location where the file is going to be archived, as we click on Form, Config Server Path, there we have the option to define by report definition name and the server name, the user or role, and the location where the file is going to be archived. As you click on OK, as you can see, the status at this moment is inactive, but if you click on row, change the status, it will be changed to active. So now let's see an example by printing a pick list, and let's check what the output file name is and also the location where it will be archived. To do that, let's open the batch versions application and the pick list UV. let's select this version. I already have my data selection predefined, so let's just click OK. And click OK again for the processing options. If we open that job, we can see that the file name, it is 701.8502.9975, which it is my ship to address number underscore the pick list number. So this part is correct. And now let's go for the output file location. And to do that, I will open the application WinSAP to explore the one folders. As we open the folder BI output, you can see that the output file is being archived there, which is correct according to the definition that we set it up. Well, we have gone through the 4 business cases. I would like to thank you for your attention and also for joining this webinar. And if you have further questions, do not hesitate to contact me on my email address mgaona@quistor.com.